Upfront and Outspoken with Bob Williams. If you love the Constitution,
man is not free unless government is limited.
if you love freedom,
As government expands, liberty contracts.
if you believe in personal responsibility, if you believe America is still the greatest nation on earth, then get ready for an experience you'll never forget. This is Upfront and Outspoken. Here's your host, Bob Williams.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
And welcome back. This is, of course, Upfront Outspoken. I'm your host, Bob Williams. Glad to have you along with me on this Friday. Normally, we would have the weather. I'm going to forego that today. The reason for it on the phone with me is none other than the host of Passionate Justice, Jonathan Wolfman. And, we have so much to discuss and in very limited time. And I want to bring him on right now. Good morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Hey, Bob and everybody out there, good morning. It is a heck of a morning.
It indeed it is. I don't know if you're aware of all the latest developments, and we're going to be talking about this. We warned people about this cascade effect with Ebola several weeks ago, and it seemed nobody wanted to listen to us back then. And now all of a sudden, the Ed Show, all the other mainstream media is picking up on it. What is it about us that's seen this before anybody else did?
Well, I don't know if what it is about us, but you and I just have, I think, a gut that is, unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be, our gut often tells us the right stuff.
You know, the thing is, the latest things that we've heard about this is the second patient called the CDC. She had a 99.5 degree temperature, which you would classify as a slight fever. She was allowed to board a flight going from Dallas to Cleveland, Ohio, then return to Dallas. So here's what we have. Number one, the bridal shop where she was at. The CDC is calling upon anyone that was in that bridal shop between the hours of 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. to contact the CDC. Okay, so there you go. Plus, you got 132 people on the initial flight that is being tracked down about this. We don't know how many people were aboard the return flight. And then on top of this, my concern is, what about all the people that were in the Dallas airport at the time the second patient walked through, okay, and all the people that were at the Cleveland terminal? And I'm not just talking about when she arrived, but I'm also talking about when she returned, knowing this person was already symptomatic of this. We said on this show several weeks ago that this was going to have a cascading effect, and you brought up the fact that we were one or two instances away from panic. Have we hit that point?
I don't know that we've hit the full panic button yet, but I do know that it's at a hair trigger right now, and I don't think that there is a reasonable person out there who wouldn't at least agree with that. My God, we've got school districts in northeast Ohio, from Akron up to Cleveland, who are shutting down right now out of what they would call, some people who live at a very big distance say, oh, that's just unwarranted panic. People right there are saying, we're doing this out of due diligence. Until we hear different, we don't want extra people congregating for bad. They'd rather have it when it would be for good.
You know, we've been hearing people trying to point fingers at who's the fault for this to happen. We've heard people pointing them at Governor Perry. We've had people pointing them at the hospital. We've had people pointing it at the NSA for allowing Duncan to first come into this country. Who do you think, in your mind, is the fault for the situation we're in right now?
I don't know that there's one person. I'll tell you what I do wish about the president. And you know this about me. I have been generally more supportive of the president than you have, and I've been generally more supportive of the president than a lot of our listeners. But one of the things that I have to be honest about as a citizen and say, it's not that I think he's not on the job. It's that I think he still, after 6-some years, doesn't really appreciate how much people in our country want to be knowledgeable about what's going on and about the kinds of negative imagination that happens when the leader, the president, is not forthcoming. Sometimes
What would you call it? Let's call it like it is, Jonathan. I mean, in my opinion, we, the American people, are being lied to. The administration wants to keep our blood pressure low, okay? When the reality is that this thing, and we've talked about this long before mainstream media got on it, that there was going to be a cascading effect. I don't want to say they're holding back. I want to say for what it is. They're lying to us.
I'm not sure I want to go there yet, and I respect your opinion, Bob. You know I do. What I think is that he sometimes feels, in fact, far too often feels, that if I'm just trying to fix things behind the scenes, it'll be all right. You can't, in something like this, be utterly behind the scenes.
Exactly.
It's a dramatic mistake on the president's part.
Exactly. That's my point exactly, Jonathan. We, the American people, we need to know the truth. We need to know everything they know, because so we can make the proper and informed decisions of how we're going to handle our travel, how we do when we come in contact with people. We need to know this information. Are we at a point of state of panic? We're damn close to it. I'd say less than a hair's width away from panic. But I am not trying to create that panic, and I want everybody to understand that I am not trying to create that panic. But who do we blame? I don't know. People are pointing fingers at the Obama administration. People are pointing fingers at the hospital. People are pointing fingers all over. And in the congressional subcommittee hearing yesterday, it came out that these nurses that initially handled Duncan were not trained. So who do I blame? I blame a faltering healthcare system that, because of budget cuts, is underfunded. That's who I blame.
I think it's very clear that the Congress is partly to blame for this. The sequester in 2011, the budget cuts in 2011 have sorely harmed systems that people take for granted. And all of a sudden now, we can't take this health system for granted. You know, as I told you, and I want people out there to know this, I am sitting right now less than a mile and a half away from the National Institute of Health, where the woman from Dallas was flown last night. And we even have local politicians here in Maryland and D.C. who are saying, oh no, we ought to panic right now. What a terrible decision. Normally, of course, they're thrilled and proud to have the national institutes of health right here in North Bethesda, Maryland, where I'm sitting.
So right now, the local officials are basically in arms because this patient is now a mile and a half away from you.
That's right.
What are they saying exactly?
Yeah, she's in a bed a mile and a half from where I'm talking to you right now.
What are they saying exactly?
Well, they're saying that she's getting the proper treatment that nobody at Dallas at Presbyterian Health, for all its good works and all their good intention, were not really able to deliver the proper care for an Ebola victim.
But I mean, what is the guy on the street saying? I mean, what's the average person saying?
As I look look out my window right now, I see normality. The thing is, you got to understand, the National Institutes of Health is an enormous campus. From the road, it looks like a very large, old kind of, say, enormous college campus. You don't get in there. You just don't drive in there. And now, of course, you just don't drive in there. But even under normal circumstances, it's a fairly, you can see it from Route 355, but you don't just say, oh, honey, let's just turn in there and go get some orange juice in their cafeteria. You just don't, say stuff like that. The NIH is a series of campuses and buildings that is very formal. You have guards at the gate. It's not as if somebody gets up and walks out of bed and says, hi, I think I'm going to go infect the people on Route 355. That's just not going to happen. But all of a sudden, you have people in Washington, D.C. who normally think, well, something's happening in Texas, I'm going to go about by my business. Well, now it's our business here in Maryland and D.C.
Right. Okay, the thing is, yesterday, yesterday I had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Christy Bradley, who is with the State of Oklahoma Department of Health. And, we had an opportunity to talk about what, here in Oklahoma we have, wherein if we would ever get a Ebola patient here, what would happen? And it seems, and from my conversation with her yesterday, that there is no hospital here in Oklahoma that's capable of handling an Ebola positive patient. So, I'm wondering, and I didn't get a chance to ask this to Dr. Christie, and I wish I had, is how many other hospitals across the country are now going through these drills that, they're supposed to be going through when you have a hazardous infectious patient? I wonder how many all of a sudden out of the clear blue says, well, maybe now we better have this drill. And we heard the nurse yesterday who said that Presbyterian Hospital they had to go through a whole chain of command in order to find out what to do, and hours had already lapsed from the time that Duncan got there to the time that somebody knew what the hell to do. How many hospitals in the country do you think face that same dilemma right now?
Oh, virtually every one of them, because on one of the news programs, and I forget which, last night, they were saying that there are only 4 hospitals with specialized units in the entire country.
Right.
And how many beds? 10 beds.
Right.
10 beds.
Well, we know that one of them is in Georgia. We know it's Georgia, Maryland, Nebraska, and Montana. Those are the 4 states that have them. But I'm wondering, and if you're talking only 10 beds, all right, let's use this. Here's your scenario of the day for you to think about, Jonathan. You have 10 beds that is capable of handling Ebola positive patients. You have 132 people that were potentially exposed on an aircraft. You have potentially people in the Dallas terminal that could possibly have achieved it. People in the Cleveland airport. People in the bridal shop. Okay? Plus the ongoing 76 in Dallas that are still under observation. I think we better rethink our healthcare system, don't you?
Without question. The idea we have, because of those oceans, listen to this, people, clearly because of those oceans, we are so far behind the reality, which is we are a connected world.
Well, face it, Jonathan, we're behind the damn 8 ball on this.
Yes, we're behind the times, we're behind the 8 ball, and when Bob asked the initial question, folks, how close are we to full-scale panic? We're not far.
Exactly.
Not far.
We're less than a hair's away from that state of panic. And what getting back to what we talked about earlier regarding the administration, I'm sorry, folks, if I seem like I'm out for blood here, but do we not, as the American people, as the citizens of this country, deserve the truth? Not the sugarcoating, not the, let's lower the blood pressure, let's kind of keep a cap on this. Do we or do we not deserve the full truth?
We do, and it was pointed out last night that one of the reasons why Winston Churchill, during the war, was such an effective leader is because he would get on the radio in Great Britain and say that early on during the war, he would tell people the bad news fully and completely and end with, "We need your support, ladies and gentlemen." That's the way to get support, not by allowing people to think, "My God, they're not telling us everything."
Exactly. In my own mind, I believe in America. I believe in our ability to comprehend what is going on here. I believe in our ability to come together in a time of crisis and resolve issues. But if we are not told the whole unbiased, unadulterated truth, then it's going to lead to missteps. It's going to lead to miscalculations. It will lead to panic. And by not being told what is going on, isn't that exactly what the administration and other members on Capitol Hill want? They want this panic?
That I don't know, and I hadn't considered that, but it's an interesting question. I don't have any doubt that some might. But I can tell you that at least so far, the local news here this morning does not seem to be suggesting there's any panic in my neighborhood, given the fact that this woman from Dallas is now, as I say, right down the block from us right here.
But like I said, Jonathan, I want to reiterate this, people. I am not trying to create a panic. I've never been trying to create a panic. Way back when you and I first talked about this, I said right out, I'm not trying to create a panic, but I brought up the ripple effect. You take that pebble, throw it in a pond, and you see the ripples get bigger and bigger and bigger. All right, that's where we are today, and it's getting bigger. I mean,
and those ripples have gotten bigger, and as I think you and I agree completely that we are. But you used the very good expression, we're within a hair's breadth of wholesale panic. We really are.
Exactly. It's crazy that it seems that mainstream media it wants to spoon feed us. It seems that those within our own government want to keep somewhat of a lid on this thing so they don't create a wholesale panic. But I have confidence. I have full confidence in the American people that if we were made fully aware of what is going on, we have the capability to band together to resolve and fight this before it gets any bigger. But, and Winston Churchill, and I got to admit, Jonathan, thank you for bringing him up. He always told the truth, yet we are not. And, you say you don't want to say that they're lying, but in my opinion, my humble, small opinion, I'm sorry, folks, we're being lied to.
Either we're being lied to or there's just extraordinary incompetence, one or the other.
I would love to say that it's incompetence, but I think the incompetence happened right initially in Presbyterian Memorial Hospital, where they had to wait for hours in order for the actual means or people to say, okay, this is what we have to do with this infectious person. That's where the incompetence was.
If I remember correctly, Bob, they initially sent Mr. Duncan home.
Right, they did. They sent him home with Tylenol and an antibiotic.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah, that was really going to help in this. Jonathan, our time once again is almost up.
10-year-olds know that antibiotics don't do anything for flu-like symptoms.
Right, exactly. Well, once again, Jonathan, our time is up. I want to remind everybody you can listen to Jonathan's show, Passionate Justice, right here every Saturday, 2 p.m. And Jonathan, I need you to hold on to the phone for a minute. Once again, everybody, this is something you need to know. You need to know the truth. I urge you, press your congressman, press your senator. Let's open it up. Let's open the books up. Let's open up the dialogue. We need to know, because it is very, very important. Far more important than you're beginning to realize.
Absolutely.
And with that, it's time for me to get on out of here. I want to have everybody stick around, because coming up here at the bottom of the hour, none other than Ed Till will be with you all the way up until 4 o'clock. So until Monday morning, 6 a.m., this is Bob Williams. Take care of yourselves.